चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगणा ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। Hare Krishna and welcome to all of you for this exciting evening where we will be witnessing the very interesting and adventurous and full of activity, life, love and romance, the pastime of Shri Shri Rukmini and Krishna Kalyan Utsav. So I welcome all of you for this event and I seek all your blessings so that I can speak in a humble service attitude for the pleasure of all of us. So this particular pastime, I have picked up points from Srimad Bhagavatam and it starts in Bhagavatam in Canto 10 and it is spanning over 3 chapters, chapter 52, 53 and 54. So in the chapter 52 of 10th canto from 18th verse onwards, this discussion about the most auspicious ceremony of Rukmini and Krishna's pastime starts. So now I can see that many of you are wishing Hare Krishna and other things. I request you please, actually I have logged in through my phone, the screen is small and all these chat is popping up there and it is a little bit of distraction. So I may please request you to not send any message unless and until I'm not audible and you want to bring it to my notice that I'm not audible. So Hare Krishna and let's start on this journey. So now this starts with the 10th canto, 52nd verse, 52nd chapter, verse number 18, when Parikshit Maharaj asks a question to Shukadev Goswami. And Parikshit asks a very specific question. He says that I have heard the most beautiful Rukmini was married to Krishna in the Rakshasa style of wedding. So now this is no ordinary wedding. Here the description has already come. It is a Rakshas style wedding in which Rukmini was married to Krishna. So if we go through the scriptures, there are various types of wedding. Like one is Daiva Vivaha. Daiva Vivaha is like how the demigods used to get married. So there generally the girl's guardians, they offer the girl to the boy's family and with the whole family consent, this marriage happens. That is Daiva Vivaha. Then there is something called Gandharva Vivaha. Now Gandharva Vivaha is a type of marriage which would happen among Gandharvas. So there generally the trend is that the boy and the girl, they develop a liking for each other and they accept each other as their husband and wife. One such marriage was of Dushyant and Shakuntala. So that is Gandharva Vivah, where the boy and the girl, they choose themselves. There is another this type of wedding which is being discussed here, which is Rakshas Vivah. So now in this Rakshas Vivah, actually the groom by force takes away the girl and get married. So there is a lot of emphasis on bala. Bala means forcibly. So this marriage happens forcibly. So now Parikshit is asking this question, that how is it that Rukmini was married to Krishna in this Rakshas style of wedding? And then he starts continuing, he requests Shukdev Goswami that please tell me this story, because these pastimes, any pastime which glorifies the Supreme Lord, gives three things. One, it brings spiritual piety. Second, they are very charming. They attract our heart to Lord Krishna. And third, they are ever fresh. So no matter how many times we hear this, but every time when we hear, it is very, very fresh. So Shukdev Goswami was being pleaded by Parikshit Maharaj on these three accounts, that because if you will tell, so these three things would happen. It will bring spiritual piety, it will generate lot of attachment towards Lord Krishna, and how new every time you repeat it is still very, very new or ever fresh. So my dear friends, these three things is true for any situation, not only for this particular pastime, but whichever pastime of Krishna we hear, we get these three benedictions, because these three are the qualities. So this is how it starts, and then Shukadev Goswami starts describing this most different type of wedding. So he says that long, long ago there lived this king whose name was Bhishmak. And Bhishmak had 5 sons and one beautifully faced daughter. I mean, that is a specific description. For the sons, there is no adjective used there. But for the daughter, there the word used is Varanyaya, which means beautiful faced. Now, these sons were all Rukmi, Rukmarth, Rukmabahu, Rukmakesh, and Rukmamali. So these were the 5 boys the king had, and the daughter's name was Rukmini. And Rukmini was extraordinarily beautiful. Now all these 6 members, they get their name with Rukma. Rukma means gold. So their bodily complexion, all these 6 brothers and sisters, all these siblings, their bodily complexion was just like gold. So that is how they got this name beginning with Rukma. So these were the 5 siblings. Now what happens is, in the next verse it is described that Rukmini has heard a lot of things about Krishna from the saintly people who would visit her palace. People generally those days would sing about Krishna's glories. Wherever you go, they would talk only about Krishna. And when Krishna's discussion would happen, basically 4 aspects: Roop, Virya, Guna, and Shriya. Roop means beauty. Virya means power. Guna means transcendental character. And Shreya means opulence. So all these 4 things people would keep describing. And Rukmini has heard a lot about that. Now the question may arise how Rukmini gets to hear all these things. So we would be very astonished to know that though there was no social media at that time, but then the media was no less powerful. The media was very, very active. There were agents like Narad Muni, or devotees, wonderful devotees who were like Lord's agents. So these people would keep traveling and keep glorifying the Supreme Lord and spreading Krishna's glories far and wide. So sometimes they would talk about, oh, did you hear? Krishna entered that serpent along with all his cowherd boys and calves. And then they would narrate the pastime of Aghasur. Sometime they would mention, oh, Krishna ate fire. And some other time they would discuss, you know, Krishna, this young boy, and he has so much audacity that he even ignores Brahma. So when they discuss Brahma Vimohan Leela, this is how they would introduce. Or sometimes the best of the pastime, Govardhan Leela. So whichever pastime they would pick up, and they would keep glorifying the Supreme Lord. So this is how Rukmini ji got to hear about the opulence and the beauty of Lord Shri Krishna, and she was completely conquered. An amazing thing that not only the devotees, not only the saintly people, but even people who did not like Krishna would also end up discussing only Krishna. So there was this group of Shishupal and Jarasandh and other kings who did not like Krishna. But what they would do is they would sit together and discuss, that boy, he was such a young boy and he killed his own mama. Right? So they would criticize Krishna. Oh, such a boy, sometimes he kills donkey, sometimes he kills calf. So like that, he says that, I mean, they would criticize Krishna, but ultimately they would also discuss Krishna. In fact, for Shishupal, it is mentioned, it is such an interesting word used, Kalbhashanam. When Shishupal was a very, very small boy, when he just started speaking in his broken little childlike, childish gibberish, he started. So like how we see that the children say Baba, Papa, Bua, like that they say. And since that time, Shishupal started abusing Krishna. He said, Are Sala Krishna, aisa ganda admi. I mean, all negative things about Krishna. So Shishupal was one such person, envy personified. Right from the birth, he started talking about Krishna again, but all the bad things about Krishna. But anyway, so the point is that everybody at that time would actually discuss only Krishna. So this is how, on the basis of hearing about Krishna, Rukmini developed such strong attachment to Krishna that she decided that I will marry Krishna. So much of attachment came just by hearing. So there is another lesson for all of us, that all our situation is like Rukmini. Now you may think how our situation is like Rukmini. Our situation is like Rukmini because we also don't get to see Krishna. We don't see Krishna face to face. We don't get to talk to Krishna. We don't have any personal interactions with Krishna. So what do we have? We have devotees of the Lord. Like how Rukmini had these saintly people, and just by hearing to them, her attachment increased. So similarly, we all have this opportunity. Prabhupada books are there, so many lectures are there, senior devotees are there. We can just hear about Krishna, and that hearing, Shravanam, would deepen our attachment and attraction towards Krishna. And so then it is described that as Rukmini was hearing about Krishna, so was Krishna hearing about Rukmini. And Krishna also heard about her intelligence, her auspicious bodily marking, her magnanimity, her beauty, and her proper behavior. So these 5 things are specifically mentioned that Krishna came to know about. I'll repeat again, about her intelligence, about her bodily markings, about her magnanimity, about her beauty, and about her proper conduct and character. So these 5 things are the things which attracted Krishna's hearts towards Rukmini. And how Rukmini was desiring to marry Krishna, Krishna also resolved within himself that he would accept Rukmini as his wife. So there is another learning here, that as we, the jivas, as we are eager to reach Krishna, as we are eager to be with Krishna, as we want to surrender Krishna, similarly, Lord is also very eager to unite with the jivas. He is equally interested in us. So that is a hope-giving thing, that Lord is also equally interested in us. So now what happened when Rukmini decided that she wants to marry Krishna, and she was checked by her father, and she confirmed to her father, and everybody was very excited with this proposal. Bhishmak was very happy because he has also heard a lot of glories about Krishna. So Bhishmak was happily wanted to give off his daughter in the marriage to Krishna. And so were Rukmini's younger 4 brothers. So Rukmini's brothers wanted to marry off their sister to Krishna. Father wanted to marry Rukmini to Krishna, but there was a difficulty. There was one Agraj or elder brother, and his name was Rukmi. And Rukmi was completely against Krishna. And that too, he did not had any solid reason. Like, it was not that he hated Krishna because Krishna has done something wrong to him. He had that mentality because he was associating with wrong people. Jayadratha was his very close ally, and he was taking a lot of association of him. And because of wrong association, he developed wrong feelings for Krishna. And the thing is that King Bhishmak was very attached to Rukmi. Just like the example is given that just like Dhritarashtra was very attached to his eldest son Duryodhan. So similarly here we see that Bhishmak was very attached to his eldest son Rukmi. And because Rukmi said, so he started thinking whether he can marry off his daughter to Krishna or not. Now Rukmi took a very firm stand there, and he started finding flaws in Krishna. So he said that this person, first he left his birthplace. Then he left the place where he was raised and he was grown up. Then he left Mathura, and finally he is living somewhere in the sea. By this time, actually, Krishna had shifted to Dwarka, and Dwarka was a city which was completely constructed in the sea. So this person, so Rukmi was saying, what is the, I mean, what type of person he is? He is staying in the sea. He has left his birthplace. He has left his place where he was raised up. Second, he said, don't know anything about his family also, whether he is son of Vasudev or he is son of Nanda Baba, whether he was shifted from here to there. Who knows what is the fact? So he said, family wise, we cannot trust Krishna. And then the third point, what he accused Krishna was, since his very childhood, he has been involved in killing and violence. So on these basis, he said, I will not marry my sister to Krishna because he does not come from a proper family. Everything about him is suspicious. And to top everything, he is so much engaged in killing and violence. So I'm not giving my sister. So the other brothers, they started like speaking something. And to them, Rukmi said that, hold on, you all are younger to me. So your cumulative intelligence is less than my single intelligence. So I will take a decision. I have taken a decision. I will not marry my sister to Krishna. So he decided like that. So this is how, and then he consulted Jayadratha. And he asked Jayadratha, whom do you think should I marry my sister? And there came the reply, Shishupal. Shishupal is the best. You must marry your sister to Shishupal. So the moment he heard that, he was completely convinced and he decided and he declared, and Bhishmak and everybody was forced to agree with him that Rukmini would get married to Shishupal. So all these preparations started and this was all decided and the wedding date was fixed. So the point here to learn is that when our mind is in a conditioned state, then our anarthas obstruct us from reaching Krishna. So we see how Bhishmak's mind was attached to his son, and because of that attachment, he was not able to reach the Supreme Lord. So the same happens with us also. When we take wrong association or when we are overly attached to certain things, then because of our attachment, we are stopped to attain Krishna. So this is what happened to them. Now, when Rukmini got to know about this, now 3 things are described in that verse which happens to Rukmini. First thing is, Rukmini became aware of the situation. So Rukmini became aware that what is happening, how the whole plan is being changed because of Rukmi, and not because of based on genuine reason, but because of his over envious nature. So first thing, she became aware, and in that awareness she desired. So she desired that this, what is happening is not okay. And because of that desire, the third thing was surrender. So she completely surrendered to Krishna. She said, I want to surrender to the Supreme Lord. So she had an awareness, she desired, and then she was surrendered. So in that surrendering position, what she does is she called a trustworthy Brahmana. So there was this Brahman whom she completely trusted. So she called him and she explained her situation to this Brahman. And then what she did is she wrote a letter. So this was a very, very interesting love letter written by Rukmini. And she wrote this letter and she sealed the letter. So there is a royal seal. So she sealed the letter. She gave it to the Brahmana and she said that I want you to go to Dwarka and give this letter to Krishna. So now this was happening. So in this situation, Rukmini was using all her intelligence and Rukmini found a way out and she found a trusted person in order to reach Krishna. So similarly, when we want to reach Krishna, we have to find out that significant, trustworthy person. And that person manifests in our life as spiritual master. So we accept the spiritual master, we develop a desire to surrender to Krishna, and then the spiritual master show us the way of how to do it, and he connects us to Krishna. So now when this letter was in the hands of the Brahmana, and Brahmana started walking hastily. Now this was a Brahmana, he did not have a chariot to climb on and go to Dwarka. So now from Vidarbha to Dwarka, this Brahmana started walking fast. He walked very briskly and then finally he reached, it is not described how many days it took, but it would have taken some days for him to reach Dwarka. And in the Dwarka city at that time, because Krishna was the ruler and Krishna worships the Brahmanas. So at that time, there was this standing instruction to all the guards that no one should question anything to the Brahmanas and the Brahman can come anytime and see me. So same thing happened when we would see the pastime of Sudama Vipra, when Sudama comes straight to his palace, no question asked. So similarly here we are seeing, and probably this is the reason why Rukmini chose this Brahman, that Brahman would not have to answer anybody. So now this Brahman straight away reaches Krishna's palace. And when Brahman sees Krishna, he gets this feeling, oh, this is Adi Purush. This is the Supreme Lord, because Krishna was sitting on a golden throne with all his majesty. And just by having his darshan, the Brahman felt so happy. The moment Krishna saw the Brahmana, Krishna stood up. Krishna moved forward. He welcomed him. He offered his obeisances to the Brahmana and he gives him proper seat. And then he worships the Brahmana just like how the demigods would worship the Supreme Lord. So with all such detail, he worshipped the Brahmana. And then after worshipping the Brahmana, he fed the Brahmana. So he gave him food to eat because Krishna could understand that he is coming from a long distance. So he was not talking like if somebody comes to our house and we may ask, yes, what? But that was not the case with Krishna. He was following the perfect etiquettes and he is showing by his example how to serve his representatives. So Krishna fed the Brahmana, and after feeding the Brahmana, he gave him a bed to rest. Like though Krishna was very curious, I mean, it is very natural for him to be curious, though he knows past, present and future, but then he also knows that this Brahman is coming from Rukmini and Krishna is eager to marry Rukmini. So all that was there. But then in all that eagerness, Krishna did not transgress any etiquettes. So then he gave some rest to Brahman. And when the Brahman had rested, Krishna goes near him and he started massaging the feet of Brahmana. And while massaging the feet of Brahman, Krishna starts asking him. And this time also Krishna's questions, I mean, it is so amazing. Krishna started asking, are you following the bona fide religious practices? Is there any difficulty in following any practices? Is your mind satisfied? Is there any sort of difficulty in doing your religious practices, and can I be of any help? And then he asks that, is your mind satisfied? And then Krishna goes on explaining that the Brahmana whose mind is satisfied, he never changes his dharma. So I want the Brahmanas to see to it that their mind is completely satisfied and it is not irritated by the basic necessities. So Krishna inquires all these things and all that conversation happens. And then finally Krishna asks that, my dear Brahmana, you have come all the way. If it is not too confidential, would you like to share the purpose of why have you come? So after welcoming, after greeting, after serving so nicely and asking about his comforts and his lifestyle, then finally Krishna asks that, is there some message? Is there something which you have come up to me? So then the Brahmana, in a nutshell, he described all what has happened. Brahmana was, of course, aware because Rukmini has briefed him. So Brahman informed what all has happened, and then he takes out this letter and hands over to Krishna. And he says that this is a letter from the princess. So Krishna sees the letter and he sees that the letter is actually sealed. Krishna gives this letter back to the Brahman. And he asks him that you open the letter and read out the content. Now we may think that why Krishna is doing like this, why, I mean, it was a sealed letter. So why is Krishna giving it back to the Brahmana? So Krishna, because Krishna could understand that this person is Rukmini's confidant, because Rukmini has trusted him. So Krishna wanted to show his gratitude. And because of that, Krishna gives him the letter. And by giving him the letter, he wins the heart of the Brahman. So Krishna accepts him also as his trustworthy person, and he also shares the details. So he wanted to share this letter. So that is how he asked the Brahmana to read this letter. Now this letter has basically 7 Sanskrit shlokas. And in these 7 Sanskrit shlokas, Shukadev Goswami has presented it as it is. It's like when we go for any event, something is happening and we click pictures of that event and we come back and we share those pictures. So the pictures are as it is a representation of the event which was happening. So similarly, Shukadev Goswami has just captured it as it is, and he has presented these 7 shlokas of that letter, which are like highly meaningful and wonderful. And by this letter, we can make out that how this letter was written by a wonderful Kshatriya lady. She is brave, she sounded very intelligent, and she had a proper detailed plan. So she was not an emotional fool girl who is just in her emotional ecstasy, she's writing her letter. It was a very thorough plan. So when we read this letter, which I'll be reading to all of you shortly, so when we go through the contents of the letter, we would realize that how in these 7 shlokas, Rukmini Devi has presented everything what was going on and what is the solution, how to like control the things. So in the first verse, so this is from 10th canto, 52nd chapter, verse number 37 to 43. So those of you who want can later go through the Sanskrit and English, and I'll be just repeating my understanding and the reflection on these verses as I have heard from our acharyas. So now in the verse number 37, basically Rukmini is telling that why am I writing you this letter? It is like the purpose of the letter. Why am I writing you? So Rukmini starts saying that because I have heard, now again she's talking about hearing. So because I have heard so many qualities of you, I have become shameless, and shamelessly I'm writing you this letter. Now imagine, this was 5,000 years ago. So the girls, generally it was not a normal practice that the girl would write a letter and express her feelings to the boy of her liking. I mean, even in today's time, even the younger generation, I mean, generally it is considered to be the boy's thing to propose to the girl. Girl may sound very needy or desperate if she proposes. So now here Rukmini is writing that by hearing your beautiful and wonderful qualities, my shame has gone, and I'm writing you this letter. When I hear about you, then she starts describing, when I hear about you, all my bodily problems or distress gets eradicated. So she's referring to her physical body, her gross body, as well as her subtle body. Just by hearing Krishna Katha, all the bodily distress gets eradicated. Then she says, I have stopped worrying about my groom. The moment I heard about you, I have stopped worrying about my groom as who would be my groom, because just by hearing about you, I have decided that you are going to be my groom. My mind is fixed upon you. She continues that my mind is fixed upon you. My eyes just want to behold your beautiful form. And then she says, I don't really care about my family or society or other people's permission. I have decided, my mind is fixed upon you, my eyes wants to see you, and all this is happening, Krishna, because I heard about your qualities, and I have heard about your qualities, and I have heard about your beauty. So because it is your quality and because it is your beauty's description, so you are also responsible. So Rukmini is telling, don't put it on me. I am alone not shameless. You are also responsible for that, because what to do? Your qualities and your beauty is so wonderful and amazing, and it captured my heart, and I lost my heart and mind. So this is how she is introducing her letter, and she is talking about herself. So with this we understand practical application. So with this we understand that Lord does not leave the sincere practitioner. So if my heart is attached to Krishna, then Krishna would reciprocate. And then the second thing what we hear is, hearing Krishna's qualities destroy all type of distress. So even if we are in distressful situation, if we continue hearing about Krishna Katha, the bodily distress gets comforted. And then one more thing what we learn is, we should try calling for Krishna just like how Rukmini does. Fearlessly, complete surrender. Even if envious people are stopping her, still not feeling shameful or bashful, but just going out, expressing her feelings to Krishna. So expressing our feelings to Krishna is a type of prayer. So like how Rukmini is expressing her feelings to Krishna, we need to master this art of expressing our heart, our feelings to Krishna. And when we do that, that becomes our genuine prayer. So like how we hear that japa is our prayer. When we are chanting, Prabhupada says that it is crying of a baby and it attracts the attention of the mother. Now, sometimes, like those of you who are mothers would have seen very often that sometimes the child cries, but he's not really crying. He's faking the cry to get something. Like he's not really crying, but he fakes sometimes. So the mothers are very expert, and then they identify that which is the fake cry and which is the real cry. So when the child is really crying, the mother instantly goes. And when the child is faking, the mother also does not take it so seriously. So similarly, Krishna knows how we are chanting. We are faking and counting, or we are sincerely and attentively chanting. So when we chant sincerely and attentively, Krishna starts hearing, like how he is hearing to the words of Rukmini Devi. So we must intensify the quality of our prayer and japa. So now going to the next paragraph, next shloka, verse number 38, where Rukmini is telling, why am I considering you? So in first thing, she said that she has heard and she has surrendered and she has decided to marry Krishna. So she has stated the purpose of the letter. Now in the second shloka, she is telling why is she considering Krishna. So she writes there many things. She starts telling that there is nobody in this entire universe who is any parallel to you in your family lineage, in your character, in your beauty, knowledge, youthfulness, wealth, and influence. So 7 things she tells. Panchmi, you have raised your hand. You want to say something? So 7 things she says that why did she choose Krishna. So first thing she talks about is the family lineage. So though her envious brother was criticizing Krishna because of that, but Rukmini is glorifying Krishna because all of us also know about Krishna's wonderful family lineage. So first thing is family lineage. Second thing, she uses the word Sheel. Sheela means transcendental character, wonderful character. So now Krishna is so exemplary in his character. He knows how to reciprocate with others, just like now we heard how he was responding to the Brahmana. So similarly, Krishna knows how to respect the elders, how to be very friendly with the equals, and how to be compassionate towards the younger ones. In fact, Krishna is so humble in his demeanor that, like we all know about that Ashwamedha Yagya, which Rajasuya Yagya, which Yudhishthir Maharaj organized, and where Krishna was worshipped as the as it was decided that he is the best person present in the yagya, and he was offered all the worships. And in the same yagya, Krishna took the job of or seva of washing the feet of the brahmanas. So that is how humble Krishna is in his character. Then she talks about Krishna's beauty, and we all know how Krishna is Navayauvan. He is not even Yauvan, he is Navayauvan. Yauvan means youth, and Navayauvan is newly acquired youth. So Krishna is so beautiful that he has not even reached complete youthfulness. He is newly youth. He is so fresh. Navayauvan indicates that freshness, and Krishna is Nitya Kishore. He is eternally youthful. So that is how his beauty is, and then his knowledge, his wealth, opulence. I mean, Krishna is so rich. Whatever we have, Ishavasyamidam Sarvam, everything belongs to Krishna. We are just the temporary holder or owner of these things, but ultimately everything belongs to Krishna. So he is so rich. So Rukmini concludes this particular shloka by saying that what aristocratic, sober-minded and marriageable aged girl would not like to marry you? And then she says, what to say of female? The entire mankind delights in you. They feel so delightful when we hear about you. So these are the reasons, Krishna, that is why I want to marry you. So she's so logical. Like she's logically also convinced. It is not only emotion. It's not pure sentiment. She's giving all logic. Then in the next verse, in 39, Rukmini is telling what she expects from Krishna. So now she has described the purpose, she has described why she wants to marry, and now she is telling what is expected from Krishna. So this is another very beautiful verse, and she is telling that though my envious brother has fixed my marriage with Shishupal, and though the wedding day is fast approaching, and though all the preparations have started, but because in my consciousness I have completely surrendered to you. Atmar Pitash, I have completely surrendered to you with my mind, body, and soul. So I am completely yours, O Krishna, and I have made this choice. She says, Ma Vritaha, I have made that choice that I will marry you, and I have completely surrendered myself to you. So now what I want you to do is, though all these different kings, all the supporter of Shishupal, everybody is coming for my wedding, I want you to come there, and what you do? Ma Veer Bhagam, take your share. So you be the lion. She is giving that analogy that you be the hero, you be the lion, and come to this assembly of jackals. So she's calling everybody else, all the supporters of Shishupal and Jarasandh, everybody as jackals. So she's saying that like when the lion comes, all the jackal, they may just make some sounds, but beyond that they can't do anything. So she said, so similarly Krishna, you have to come there and you have to take your lion's share, and I am that share. So she is offering herself and she's saying, I am your share, I am your quota, I am offered to you, I cannot offer myself to anybody else. So this is how she is expecting Krishna to come there and to take her from there. So now here, three things again I would repeat. What we can do is, one, we make a choice. So we choose Krishna. This is our free will, like how Rukmini chose Ma Vritaha. So I make my choice that I choose Krishna. Then second thing is Atmar Pitash, complete surrender to Krishna. So I choose Krishna, I surrender to Krishna. My soul is completely surrendered to Krishna. And third is Ma Veer Bhagam. So now how Rukmini was offering herself to the Supreme Lord, we have to offer ourselves in the service of the Supreme Lord. So whatever I have, with all my qualification, all my talent, all my possessions, I should utilize in the service of the Lord. Like how Rukmini wanted to be utilized by the Lord, to be offered to the Supreme Lord, to give pleasure to the Supreme Lord. So similarly, we have to channelize all our activities in such a way that we give pleasure to the Lord. Now the fourth shloka. And in the fourth shloka, which is shloka number 40, Rukmini is telling about her eligibility. So she has told what she wants Krishna to do. She has told why she wants Krishna. Now she's gonna convince Krishna that why me. So now here she is telling, in this verse she says that I am offering all my pious activities. So she is telling that till this time, in all my previous janmas, in all the time, whatever I have passed, whatever pious activities I have done, whatever sacrifices I have done, whatever charity I have given, whatever rituals I have followed, whatever vows I took, whatever austerities I performed, whichever demigods I have worshipped, or the gurus I have worshipped. So she names everything. And she says, as a result of all these things, I want you to accept me. So these are all my qualifications, because of these qualifications, I took birth in a particular family where I got to hear so much about your glory. And because I heard about your glory, my mind got fixed in you. So this is my qualification. So she is claiming that whatever I have done, austerity, charity, penances, worship, pleasing the superiors, sacrifices, pious activity, as a result of all these things, those things become my eligibility criteria, Krishna, and please come and take me. So now, with this we understand that how we all need spiritual piety to attract Krishna's mercy. So Krishna's mercy comes, I mean, we cannot force Krishna to be merciful. So how Krishna becomes merciful? Krishna becomes merciful when we do a lot of spiritual piety. So that goes in our credit, and then Krishna's mercy showers upon us. And second understanding here is Krishna consciousness is many lifetime of effort. It involves lifetime after lifetime. Like Rukmini is saying that not only in this lifetime, but previous all the lifetimes, whatever I have done. So similarly for us, whatever we are gathering now, we should not feel disheartened, because it is all going in our permanent account and everything accumulates up, and then finally Krishna becomes merciful. So whenever prayers are intense, whenever mind is fixed, when we do enough spiritual piety, then that is the way to attract Krishna. Then we become eligible. Like how Rukmini is talking about her eligibility. And then in the 5th verse, she is telling whom all you should bring now. So now Rukmini has convinced Krishna. By now, Rukmini has convinced Krishna that, okay, so this is all happening. So now she's thinking that if after hearing this, if Krishna gets this thought that, see, the wedding is already fixed, and maybe haldi, mehendi, worshipping demigods, there are so many ceremonies which happens before the marriage. Like there are so many types of charity which is done, different demigods are worshipped. In North India, there are a lot of things which happen, and I have attended a few South Indian weddings, and there also I have seen like they plant that tree, and that marks the beginning, which generally happens 2, 3, 4, 5 days before the wedding, depending on the muhurtam. So anyway, so Krishna may get this thought that the wedding date is fixed, and already so many things are happening. So how do you think, I mean, Bhishmaka is doing for you, and Damaghosha would be doing for Shishupal, and all this is happening, and wedding is just 2, 3 days later now. So what shall I do? How do I come? So Rukmini in this verse, in verse number 41, she starts telling that Krishna, you just come a little ahead of time. Just come one day before my wedding. And you bring few significant people. Don't bring your whole army, because if you bring your whole army, then everyone would be alert. Everyone would become very cautious. So don't bring your whole army. Just get few very powerful, strong people, your senapatis and all. You bring them. You don't bring the whole thing. And there she uses a beautiful word. She uses this word nirmathaya. Nirmathaya. Mathaya, mathna means to churn. In Hindi also there is this word mathna, like we churn, like churning the butter. So she is saying you come with your top class or the top cadre army people, and what you do here, you do nirmathaya, you churn these people, churn all these kings who have gathered here. And in that, after that churning, take me, like when we churn, the ghee comes out. You churn the curd and the ghee comes out. So here she's saying that you churn all these kings and then you take me out like the ghee and you take me home. So now in this particular thing, she described whom all to bring. And in the next verse, now by this time, Krishna may become a little confused in the sense that, okay, I can defeat Shishupal, I can defeat Jarasandh, I can defeat other army people also, but you would be somewhere in your inner chambers. How would I reach you? I don't want to kill your people. Krishna may start thinking that I don't want to kill Rukmini's family members, Rukmini's own people, her citizens. I don't want to kill them. It's an auspicious day. It will be our wedding day. So why should I kill your people? So Rukmini answers that query in verse number 42, where she says, how can you find me? So now she's giving even more detailed, thorough plan. She's telling that one day before the wedding, there is a ceremony which is known as Mahati Yatra or Shobha Yatra, where the bride along with her friends and lot of Brahmins and elderly family ladies, the whole procession, we walk and we go to the Kul Devi temple. So there is this Girija temple, who's a Kul Devi. Girija is another name for Mother Parvati. So she says that there is this Girija temple, and I would be going to Girija temple. So what you can do is, when I'm going, a lot of people would be there along with me. So once I enter the temple and I do my puja, when I'm coming out, you can quickly grab me, place me in your chariot and bring me home. So this way you would not kill anybody else. So only those enemy gang or these Shishupal and others would be there, but my people would not be there. So this would be very easy, and this way I would offer my worship also to Kula Devi, so that ritual is also complete, and then you can gather me from there, and then this is how you kidnap me. So now you see how this Kshatrani is planning her own kidnapping. So this is Rakshas style of Vivah or marriage ceremony. And there is a seventh verse. Seventh verse shows her determination. It shows how serious she is about it, because in the seventh and the last 43rd number of verse, Rukmini writes, what will happen if you do not come? So if we see, she gave all the reasons, she reasoned out, she explained why she chose Krishna, she explains why Krishna should choose her, she explains who all should come, she gave the whole plan how to kidnap her, and then she is thinking that even after hearing all this, if my Lord, my master is not convinced, and if he decides not to come, then what will I do? So in this verse, she is saying that Lord Shiva worships you, and Lord Shiva bathes in the dust of your lotus feet, and you are worshipable for me also. So if you will not come, I anyway want to be your servant only. So if you come, it is very nice. If you do not come, my body has anyways become very weak and fragile, because I have been observing lot of austerities of late. Because I want you to be my husband, so I have been performing lot of sacrifices, I have been observing lot of austerities, and my body has become very weak. So it will not be difficult at all for me to commit suicide. So if you don't come, I cannot even imagine somebody like Shishupal. So if that point arises, if that is about to happen, of course I will not let it happen, because what will I do? I will end my life. And she says, and this way I will keep ending hundreds of lifetime. Somebody's microphone. Okay. So she says, I will hundreds of lifetime, I'll keep repeating the same thing. I'll take birth, I'll perform austerities, I'll fix my mind on you, I'll appeal to you, and if you hear my appeal, if you grant to accept me as your wife, it is nice, otherwise I'll commit suicide. And with this, she ends her letter that your servant Rukmini. So this is what I will do, and I'll be keep waiting for you. So now here is another lesson for us from this particular verse, that this is how life after life after life, like how Mahaprabhu says that, my dear Lord, either you embrace me or you leave me broken-hearted. I'll still want to be your servant eternally. So similarly, one should be willing to pay any price to attain the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So this is how the Brahmana relayed the confidential message. These were the 7 verses of the letter which Rukmini wrote, and which Shukdev Goswami presented as it is. And after this letter, after reading out this letter, the Brahmana said, oh dear Lord, please think carefully and act very fast, because now only 2 days were left in the wedding. So he said, please act very fast. We are losing time. We don't have much time. So please act very fast, whatever you have to decide. So now with this concluded the 52nd chapter, and then we would go to 53rd chapter. So in the 53rd chapter, in the opening verse, Krishna says, now Krishna is responding there, and Krishna says, Tathaham api. He uses these 2 words, Tathaham api. Now we may think, what is the meaning of these 2 words? So these 2 words are very common in current time. Tathaham api means me too. So Krishna reciprocates by saying, me too, I am also very eager to attain Rukmini. I have also completely fixed my mind at Rukmini, and I understand that because Rukmini was crying there in my separation, I could not sleep at nights also. Krishna specifically mentions there that even at night I could not sleep. Why could he not sleep? The Lord could not sleep because the devotee was crying in separation. So we should not get that feeling that whether Krishna is even aware of what I am going through. Does Krishna know how much I am suffering? Because Krishna here says, Tathaham api. I am also suffering. Just like Rukmini is suffering, I am also suffering. And then Krishna says, I understand that Rukmi out of envy has done this. Out of envy, he has forbade our marriage. Otherwise, there is no real reason, there is no flaw. And then he continues saying that Rukmini is absolutely flawless and completely gorgeous. And I will bring her to Dwarka. So this is the first time when Krishna is admitting it loud, though he had decided in his mind long, long back. This time he's admitting it loud. He is saying that I will bring her to Dwarka. And then the next verse says, Daruka, make my chariot ready immediately. He calls out like, immediately, make my chariot ready. And Krishna just runs out. The moment the chariot is ready, Krishna climbs the chariot. And it is described how Krishna's chariot had four horses, all the horses of different colors, and the name of horses are given, and Krishna climbs on the chariot, and Krishna gives his hand to the Brahmana, and he wants to help the Brahmana climb the chariot. And for the Brahmana, probably this is the first time that he was getting into the chariot. Pavam, he didn't know how to get on the chariot also. So that is why it is specifically mentioned that Krishna gives his hands and pulls up the Brahmana, and they start towards Dwarka. So they, they start towards Vidarbha. So from Dwarka, the chariot leaves. Now Krishna was in such a hurry that he did not even took permission or seek blessing or inform Balram. Generally, whenever Krishna would go out, he would discuss with Balram. But we understand that when the Jiva calls in desperation, Krishna comes to help, Krishna comes to our rescue immediately. So that is how he is demonstrating here, that he immediately climbs in his chariot and he leaves for Vidarbha. And it is described that within one night he reaches there. So he was traveling faster than the speed of wind, and he reaches there and he arrives Kundina early next morning. Kundina is another name for Vidarbha, so he arrives there early next morning. And here now, so simultaneously there is a description as what is happening in this city. So imagine now king's daughter is getting married, princess, and that too the only princess is getting married. So Bhishmaka was busy in preparation. And what preparations are going on? The roads, the streets, the narrow streets, everything was cleaned and washed with water. Then there are multicolor banners all around the poles, and the archways are decorated nicely, brightly lit. And then everyone, all the citizens, everyone had decorated themselves in clean, new, spotless dress. They had applied sandalwood paste. They were wearing nice first-class ornaments according to their capacity, whatever they could afford. They were all wearing these gorgeous ornaments. They were wearing garlands, and the houses were clean, the roads were clean, and everything was like super excellent. The whole city was ready to receive the Barat. Now the Barat arrival time was coming, and there were a lot of rituals going on. Demigod worship was going on. Brahmanas bhojan was going on. In fact, it is very interesting that Brahmanas, it is described, should be fed before they are engaged in the service. Okay, recently I was reading this Govardhan pastimes. So there also this mention was there that the Brahmanas were fed first, And that time I was wondering why the Brahmanas are being fed first and then the ceremony starts. Here also it is mentioned that the Brahmans were offered bhojan first. Why? Because Brahman bhojan priya. Brahman works only for bhojan. And you feed the Brahmanas nicely and they feel obliged to do the seva very nicely. So that is why Brahmanas first they are fed and then they are asked to do their respective services. It is the other way around for people of lower cadre, because if you feed them they will run away. But Brahman, because Brahman works for only for food, what else they want? So that is why Brahmanas are fed first. So yeah, so rituals were performed, demigod worship was going on, Brahmanas were fed, traditional mantras were being chanted for the well-being of the bride. So all this was going on in the city. And it is also described that Rukmini was getting ready. So Rukmini, how she's getting ready? Rukmini takes Purna Snan, complete Snan. So complete Snan, actually in the verse it is mentioned Susnatam. Susnatam refers to complete Snan, which comprises of various things. Like there, certain oils are applied, certain types of oils are applied sequentially. Then there is this Uptan. Uptan is something like how we have this, what we call? Acne scrub. So like how we have these space scrub. So there was this Ubtan which was applied. So there are certain things which are applied sequentially. And then finally the last one is taking bath with water. In Kali Yuga it is that you take bath only with water. That also some people don't take anyways. But then Rukmini took this complete Purna Snan. And after taking Purna Snan, what she does next is, it is described, I mean, yes, sorry. So before taking Purna Snan, it is described that she cleansed her teeth. And then she took this bath. And then she wore new clothes, new upper garment, new lehenga. The whole thing was new. And then she wears these first class ornaments. So this is how she was getting decorated. And the Brahmana started singing some mantras. So the Brahmanas sing from Sam, Rig and Yajurved, and then finally the Brahmana starts singing some specific mantras from the Atharva Ved, which is to nullify the bad or unfavorable planetary position. So all that was going on. And simultaneously Bhishmaka was giving lot of charity, and he's giving the til and gur and cow and so many things in charity. The simultaneously, so all these activities, so the whole city is active and alive and full of life, and there are different activities going on in each part of the city. But the missing link was Krishna. All these things were happening simultaneously, but unfortunately, though the king Bhishmak was an expert in having all these ritualistic things, but he did not have so much deep attachment or attachment to Krishna as much as he had for his son. And that is why, though everything was happening, but it was all fruitless, because Krishna was not in the center. So anyway, so this was happening, and Dam Ghosha, the father of Shishupal, he was also doing similar activities for his son Shishupal. So he was also gearing up for the preparation, the wedding preparation, and the whole Bharat arrives Kundina. And interestingly enough, these Bharat had come with the full army. I mean, there were elephants, there were horses, there were warriors, there were full army with which the Bharat arrived. And then Bhishmak comes out and he welcomes the king and he offers respect. And those of us who are from North India would understand that what is this milani. Bharat aati hai to wo milani hoti hai ki chacha chacha se milte hain, tau tau se milte hain, father father se milte hain. So that same thing is described was happening there. So the whole Bharat Milan was going on and they were welcoming them. And then Shishupal's supporters came. So it is mentioned Shalva, Jarasandh, Dantavakra, they all had come with armies again. So now it is mentioned that probably deep down somewhere they were aware and they were scared that Krishna might come. So because of that, they had brought their full army. Now, though it was all the first class preparation, what was happening here, but still to accommodate so many armies, can we even think like what type of arrangement would it call for? It was not only the kings and the ministers, but their entire entourage. Even for elephant and horses, the food was to be provided. So there were a lot of these temporary staying places which were additionally constructed, and they were all given these various places as per their positions. So they were all given their quarters to stay. And then, so this is how it was all happening in the absence of Krishna. So the Bharat had arrived. And now there in Dwarka, it is described that Balram gets to know that Krishna has gone there. So when Balram hears this, Balram gets very scared. Now this is a transcendental fear which Lord Balram experiences, because Balram knows Krishna is Sarva Karan Karanam. Krishna is Adi Purush, who can destroy Krishna, who can do anything to harm Krishna. Yet, because of his affection for his brother, he hurried to Kundina with a mighty army. So Balram, because Krishna went alone, just Daruka and Krishna, they went alone. So now Balram was coming with the army because of this attraction towards Krishna. So we also sometimes, rather most of the time, in fact all of the time, when we are doing deity worship, this is how we have to do. We should never think that, oh, these deities are self-dependent, they can take care. What Krishna needs from me, he wants, he will eat on his own. Why I have to bother cooking for him? That is not proper attitude. Deity worship happens in this attitude, as how Lord Balram was so protective about his younger brother Krishna. So the moment he heard, he rushed with his army to protect Krishna. Now the scene changes and Shukdev Goswami takes us to Rukmini's palace. So now this time Rukmini was in her palace and she was very concerned and very anxious and highly depressed and disturbed. Now she has already sent the letter and there was no response so far, and the time of wedding was fast approaching. So this was in the middle of the night somewhere, when Rukmini is very, very restless and she starts thinking. So first she thinks that probably I have not done enough piety, because she was claiming that based on her spiritual piety, she's qualified for Krishna. So now she starts thinking that probably I have not done enough piety. And then she thinks a little more and she feels that, or maybe there is some other flaw in me. And then she starts thinking that when Krishna would have read my letter, he would have made up his mind, he would have started to come, but then he would have seen some flaw in me, something would have struck him, and that's how he would have cancelled. So there is some flaw in me. So like that, she was continuously contemplating that there is something wrong with me. So I have to improve. I am not good enough. So this is the vision of our devotee. This is what Rukmini Devi teaches us, that the vision of the devotee is that they see all the wonderful qualities in Krishna and they see that they are not qualified enough, they are not good enough. So if we are properly situated as devotee, then we would think less of ourselves and we would think not so many good things in us, and we would glorify the Supreme Lord. So this is what exactly Rukmini was doing. Rukmini was not even once doubting Krishna. She was not saying that, oh, this is wrong with Krishna, like why is he doing like that? I have sent a letter shamelessly and yet he's not. She's not thinking like that. What she's thinking is, there is some problem with me. Then she thinks that, or maybe probably Brahma is angry with me. The creator is angry. And then she thinks, why would the creator be angry? And then she thinks that maybe Shiva is upset. So like that, she's continuously thinking of the reasons. And when she thinks that Shiva is angry, then she's reminded of goddess Girija, the Kula Devi, whose temple she has to go. So interestingly, there is a verse, and in the same verse, Rukmini is addressing goddess Parvati with 4 names. She says Gauri, who is Girija, who is Rudrani, who is Sati. Maybe she is angry with me. Now we may think why she's calling out so many different names. So she is saying, and she's thinking to herself when she addresses her as Girija. Girija, the name Parvati gets the name Girija because she's the daughter of Giri or mountain. So Rukmini thinks that Girija is the daughter of mountain. So her heart is hard like rock. So that is why she's not pleased with me. Then she thinks of her as Rudrani. Rudrani means wife of Rudra. Now the purpose of Rudra is to cry and make others cry. So she thinks that that is the purpose of Rudra. When he was born, from that time itself he is crying. This is his wife. Why would she like to see me happy? So that is why she's doing like this to me. And then she thinks of Sati, and she said that Sati lost her own husband. Why would Sati want me to be united with my husband? So like, see, so all these thoughts were coming in her mind. And when she was engrossed in anxiety, her eyes welled up with tears. And with teary eyes, she just closed her eyes. And when she closed her eyes, suddenly she experienced twitching on the left side of her body. So her left eye, her left hand, and her left thigh started to twitch. Twitching, in Hindi they say padakna, aankh padakne lagi. I don't know what it is in Tamil. So there was some twitching. So now this twitching happened, and because of this twitching, Rukmini could understand that this is on the left side, and left side indicates positive things. If there is a twitching on the left side of a female body, it indicates something very auspicious is about to happen. So Rukmini was just thinking, just realizing that the left side of her body is twitching. And that very moment, the Brahmana enters. And when Brahmana saw Rukmini and Rukmini saw Brahmana, and when Rukmini saw Brahmana, she could see that Brahmana's face was lit up. Brahmana's face was lit up. He was looking very, very happy. And Rukmini is very good in reading the faces also. So she, just by looking at her, she could like absorb the happiness. And she started, this reality started sinking in her that, okay, so Krishna is coming. And the way she was thinking, the point she was thinking, and that very time the Brahmana announced, Yadu Nandan has come. So by this time, Krishna had already come. So he announced Yadu Nandan has come, and he has told that he will take you to Dwarka. Rukmini was so happy to hear this. Rukmini was so happy, extremely happy to hear. And then she started looking around and she was figuring out that what is it? How can I repay this Brahmana? What can I give him? Because generally we have seen that they give you some good news and you give, I mean, the kings would give certain things in return. So Rukmini started thinking what to give, what to give. And then she understood that there is nothing in this three world which she can give to the Brahmana in return of this most auspicious news. So Rukmini paid obeisances to the Brahmana. It is mentioned that because of that feeling, then Rukmini bowed down to the Brahmana. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the moment Rukmini bowed down to Brahmana, Brahmana's whole house was full of Lakshmi. Automatically, all the Lakshmi was filled in the Brahmana's house. So now what happens? So Krishna has arrived, and Krishna Balram's arrival news reached King Bhishma. Now Krishna had arrived, and Krishna stopped his army a little distance, and this news traveled to Bhishma. And because Bhishma was a nice and a pious person, it was just because of his son's arrogance and his attachment to his son that he was like not able to marry him to her to Krishna. So he becomes very happy. He's very thrilled. He was thinking, wow, and it's just like some celebrity has come to attend your daughter's wedding. So he is very, very happy. He rushes towards Krishna Balram and he goes and welcomes them. So he takes abundant offerings, abundant gifts, and with a lot of musical instruments playing in the background, he finally reaches there and he welcomes Krishna Balram. So first thing what he does is he offers them some madhuparka, which is some very nice fragrant preparation to eat. So he first offers madhuparka, then he offers them new clothings and so many gifts. In fact, it is described, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes there very beautifully that in the heart of heart, actually Bhishmaka wanted Krishna to be his son-in-law. So the quality of gifts and the clothings, what he was offering to Krishna was actually even better than what he has already offered to Shishupal. So Bhishmak was so happy. He was doing all the rituals, standard rituals of welcoming, and he was giving all these offerings. And then he arranged the accommodation. Now for others, he had arranged these makeshift accommodation. And for them, he arranged a beautiful palace. So the best accommodation, the best clothing, the best gifts were given to Sri Krishna Balaram. So this is how Bhishmak welcomed. By this time, he had no idea that they have come to kidnap. So he was quite comfortable and he was welcoming. Actually, it is described that according to the power or position a person has, to that level he is given respects in the Kshatriyas. So Krishna was a Kshatriya, Bhishmak was Kshatriya, and all the kings who had come were Kshatriya. So Krishna was the greatest of them all, and that is why the highest respect, to demonstrate or to give the highest respect, the best facilities were offered to the Supreme Lord. So this is how they were welcomed. Now this news that Krishna Balram has come started spreading in Vidarbha. And when this news spread in Vidarbha, the residents came to meet Krishna Balram. They were so eager that the entire city, everybody, they rushed. The moment they heard Krishna Agatya, Krishna has come, they all ran towards the palace where Krishna was staying. And there is a very beautiful verse which is described there as how they were looking at Krishna. So when they were looking at Krishna, it is mentioned that they cupped the palms of the eyes to drink the beauty of Krishna. They cupped. So the eyes were like the cups, and they wanted to drink. Krishna was so beautiful, they wanted to drink his beauty. And how they were drinking? Through the eyes. So eyes were filled with the beauty of Krishna. Eyes was acting like a cup. Like if I want to drink milk, I have to put it in a cup and I drink it. So similarly, when they were drinking the beauty of Krishna, their eyes were converted into cups. And with their eyes, with that premanjana shrutir bhakti vilokanena, their eyes anointed with bhakti and love, they were having darshan of the Supreme Lord. So they all came running, they all started looking, and there was not even a single person who was blinking his eyelashes. So they were continuously staring looking, admiring and drinking the beauty of Krishna. They were appreciating Krishna with a lot of attachment, and nobody would move. So they had all come there, and then the security was called, and security was trying to like shoo them away. Okay, go, time up. But no, they were all standing still. Because why they were standing still? Agad prem. They had such deep love, intense love for Krishna. With such thick attention, they were watching Krishna. Even the ladies, it is described that even the ladies shamelessly, they were standing there, and right Krishna was there, and they were all absorbed in the beauty of the Supreme Lord. So this was going on. And then they started some discussion. So some of the citizens, they started saying, no one else but he deserves Rukmini. Someone else said, Rukmini is for him alone and for nobody else. Someone else said, he should accept Rukmini as his wife and not as an enjoyable object. Somebody else said that only Rukmini is qualified for that position and nobody else is qualified to be his wife. Someone else said that this certainly should happen and it should not be avoided. What should not be avoided? Rukmini Krishna Kalyan. It should not be avoided at any cost. Someone else spoke that how he is perfectly suitable for Rukmini and how everybody else is completely unsuitable for Rukmini. So when they are saying everybody else, it was referring to, of course, Shishupal. So all these citizens, they started talking like this. They were having darshan of Krishna and this is how they started talking. So the question may arise that who spoke like this? Everyone. Where talking? Like khullam khulla baat kar rahe the. Nobody was thinking ki somebody is watching, arey Shishupal ki barat bhi aayi hui hai, and what if the barati is here? No, they were not thinking, they were not scared. Everybody was talking, everywhere they were talking. And why they were talking like this? Because of their pure, unalloyed love for Shri Shri Rukmini Devi and Krishna Bhagwan. So because of that love, the entire population of Vaidarbha was absorbed in such discussion. So bound by their swelling love, the cities of residents spoke in this way, and then to top it up, they started praying also. They started praying that if we have done any pious activity, then Rukmini should get married to Krishna. Everybody was praying. So except for one person, everybody in this town of Vaidarbha wanted Rukmini and Krishna to get married. So all this was going on, and this was the time. The time has arrived when Rukmini started coming out from her inner chambers, from her private chambers. So when Rukmini arrives, so Rukmini is surrounded by, the first was a circle of her close friends. They were her girlfriends. Then the mother and other elder ladies. Then there were a lot of Brahmanis, the wife of the Brahmanas. These ladies were also qualified Brahmanis and they were chanting lot of mantras. And there were so many musical instruments like mridanga, conch shell, horns. Everything was going on in the background, and Rukmini started walking towards the temple of goddess Girija. So this is 7:30 and the time is up. So we have two options.
Please continue, Mataji.
So we have two options. Either I continue for another half an hour, or I break it up and we take it in the second part.
Please continue, Mataji.
Please continue.
Please continue.
Yes, please continue, Mataji.
I can see that we have 98 participants. So if you can raise your hands, I'll get the number that you want this marriage to happen today or the next day. So all of you are Bharati. So depending on all of you, we will decide. Panchami, you have started sharing some screen. So 55, 56. So if we cross 75, we will continue today. Krishna needs at least 75 Bharatis. So we are stuck at 60. 62. I think we are live at YouTube also. So if there are somebody at YouTube, we can get the numbers from there also. 65.
YouTube is not coming, Mataji.
Oh, YouTube is not working.
Not
Okay.
coming it is.
68. 7 more to go. So we are stuck at 68, 69. I will try to get them married in half an hour if you have time. 73. Two more. 74 and the last hands up. Okay, here we go. Bharat is coming. Hare Krishna. So now, Rukmini was walking along with all these people and she was going towards the temple of goddess Girija. So she is surrounded by all these people and everybody, the Brahmin ladies are chanting those mantras and Rukmini Devi is completely quiet. She is observing maun or silence and she is meditating. And it is wonderfully described that with her feet, she is proceeding towards the temple of goddess Durga. And in her mind, she is completely meditating on the lotus feet of Krishna. So going towards Durga and meditating on Krishna. So walking towards the temple and Chintan, Purna Chintan, completely absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. And it is described that how is her absorption? Her absorption is Purna and Nirantar. Purna means completely absorbed. Like how we do multitasking. When we are attending a class, I have seen many devotees, they are simultaneously using WhatsApp also. So they are listening to the class and they are talking to somebody else also. That is not the type of absorption which is good enough to achieve Krishna. Rukmini's absorption is Purna, complete. So only one object. So that is how she was in complete or Purna absorption. And Nirantar, Nirantar means constantly. So completely and constantly. She was not thinking of anything else. She was completely and constantly absorbed in the thoughts of the Supreme Lord. So whenever you are sitting for your devotional practices, try to focus on these words, Purna and Nirantar, complete and constant. So completely meditate and constantly meditate. That was Rukmini's meditation. So when she was just about to enter the temple, she washes her feet there. Now, again, small little things which we need to pick up from all these incidents. What is happening? Rukmini Devi is teaching us something. Krishna personally taught us something. So before entering the temple, Rukmini Devi washes her feet. After washing the feet, she does the complete achman. So in this way, so she washes her feet, she does the achman, and then she calms her mind and reaches in front of the deities. So when she's standing in front of the deity, she is purified internally as well as externally. So in this calm state of mind and clean consciousness internally and externally, she reaches there for worshipping goddess Durga. So when she stands there, the Brahmana's wife were facilitating the puja. So they were asking her, so they asked her, what do you want to pray for? What is your heart's desire? And here for the, again in presence of goddess Durga, Rukmini says, I want to have Krishna as my husband. And this is what I want to pray for. Interestingly enough, these Brahmanis immediately, they composed a Sanskrit shloka for this and they gave it to Rukmini. And they said that, okay, you recite this prayer. So nobody objected. In fact, everyone was very happy to hear Rukmini's desire. And they gave her this mantra and Rukmini chanted that mantra and then she starts worshipping the goddess. So there are various articles which are described like water, scents, whole grain, incense, clothing, garland, necklace, jewelry, and so many other things. And then the lamps, which was all used in worshipping the goddess. And after that, variety of preparations like cakes, betel nuts, fruits, sugarcane juice, etc. was offered to the offered as an offering. After doing this, Rukmini Devi uses the same objects and she worships these Brahmanis. So she worships these ladies after she worshipped goddess Durga. And then after that, these ladies, they gave some prasad to Rukmini, and Rukmini, holding the hand of her maid servant, she walks out of the temple. Now when she is stepping out of the temple, this was the time when everyone has gathered there. Everyone means Shishupal, everyone means Jayadratha, everyone means Shalva, everyone means everyone along with their army, including Krishna Balram. So all those people of Vaidarbha and all the guests, सारे घराती और बराती सब लोग वहां पहुंच गए थे. Everybody was standing there and holding their hearts, waiting to see Rukmini for the very first time. So this was the first public appearance which Rukmini was going to make. While coming, actually, she had come in a palanquin, and she got down from the palanquin just probably 15 steps distance from the temple, and that is how she walked inside. So while coming out, this is the first time when she was walking out. Now there is this beautiful, beautiful description from the verse number 51 to 55 about the beauty of Rukmini Devi. So one particular word used there is that she was as attractive as Maya Shakti. So now Maya, we keep hearing this word Maya, and we also know that how we get entrapped in Maya, because Maya is very attractive and Maya can come in any form and shape. So now this powerful potency, Maya, when it has to take a form, this was how beautiful Rukmini was looking. Vishwanath Chakravarti also explains that why this word Maya is used there is because Rukmini is Krishna's internal potency and Rukmini is for Krishna's pleasure only. So others cannot directly see Rukmini. So what they saw actually this Maya. They could not see, nobody is qualified to see Rukmini Devi. So that is why it is mentioned Maya Shakti. So the moment she stepped out, she got everybody's attention and everyone was completely absorbed in her. She was like Mohini Murti, like how Lord takes the form of that Mohini Murti, Mohini incarnation, and how all the demigods and demons, they were all together caught by the Lord's attention. So similarly, when she comes out, she catches everyone's attention. Another word which is used there is Param Akarshak. Akarshak is attractive, Param Akarshak, बहुत ही ज़्यादा खूबसूरत और आकर्षक. So she was Param Akarshak, she was Param Sundari, the most elegant and the most beautiful women. Param Sundari. And then there is a description that how this Param Akarshak and Param Sundari lady, how she was. So it is described that she has a very slender waist. Her body, her middle portion was very slender. Her hip was decorated with a beautifully jewel-studded hip belt. And there were kundals, jhumki types, dangling, the danglers, yeah, the kundals are the danglers. So danglers dangling in her ears, and some loose hair was coming on her face. The hair was covering her face. A little hair would come and then she would push it back, and then it would come and she would push it back. Why was she pushing back? Because her eyes were searching for Krishna. So these hair were becoming a blockage. So she was pushing back the hair and she was continuously looking for Krishna. Then it is described that she had Susmita. Susmita means beautiful smile. So she has this all beautiful smile. Her lips were as red as bimba fruit. And because her lips, now she's not wearing any lipstick, but her lips are naturally as red as bimba fruit. And because of the reflection of these red lips, her teeth were also looking little reddish. But in reality, when she would like slightly open, when the mouth was slightly open, the teeth were like jasmine buds. Now, jasmine flower, we have seen this fully open. But especially if you go to Vrindavan, we find these tiny little buds. So these teeth, her teeth were like jasmine bud. And how she was walking like a royal swan. Now the swan is a Hans. So Hans ki chal is very famous. The way the Hans walks, so elegant. So she was walking like how the swan walks on water. So graciously, so elegantly she was walking, and she was wearing this nupur or payal in her legs and her feet. She was wearing payal, and it was making excellent tinkling noises or sounds. She was creating beautiful sound as she was walking. So this is how breathtakingly beautiful Rukmini Devi was. And let's see what happened when the warriors saw her. So when the warriors saw her, these were like no ordinary kings who had come. They were all super excellent. So when they saw her, these heroes, it is described, they were completely bewildered. And they developed such a desire that everyone wanted to have her. They desired to have her. And they were so bewildered and they were so enchanted, completely enchanted and absorbed and attracted to her beauty, that their weapons started falling down. The weapons, what they were strongly holding, all the weapons started falling down. And so there is a beautiful remark by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur there, that when the weapons were falling down, Rukmini thought, oh, that's why I didn't ask Krishna to bring the army, because I am defeating and they are dropping their weapons anyway. So why we need any army to defeat these people? So this is how their weapons were falling down, and some of them, like a good number of them, they actually fell unconscious. Now, can you imagine these stalwart kings riding on their horses or elephant, and suddenly the weapon fell down, and then they become so like they they get unconscious, and they were falling from their elephants, they were falling from the chariot, they were falling from their horses. So this was the impact of Rukmini Devi's first public appearance. And what was happening is, why Rukmini made this appearance? Because Rukmini was constantly searching for Krishna. Rukmini wanted to see Krishna. So while going to the temple, she was walking fastly, but now the time had come and she has to go with Krishna. So she was searching. So her eyes were like looking around and trying to find out, where is he, where is he, where is he? And then suddenly she noticed, there is he. So when she found Krishna and when their eyes met, Rukmini changed her direction and started walking towards Krishna. And when Rukmini started walking towards Krishna, all these assistants, all the friends who were surrounding her, actually everyone wanted her to go with Krishna only. So understanding her desire, everyone started walking and assisting her to move towards Krishna. And she reached Krishna's chariot. And when she reached Krishna's chariot, she moved her hand forward and she wanted to climb in the chariot. And this is the first time when their eyes met, and Krishna gives his hand to her, and she pulls Rukmini Devi inside the chariot. And this all is happening, and everybody is like in a pause mode. They are all watching. Nobody was moving. Some of them though had fallen down and they were still unconscious. And those who were not unconscious also, they were like stunned with what was going on there. And they were just seeing how Rukmini graciously climbs in the chariot of Krishna. And it is mentioned that slowly Krishna started moving his chariot, and he just moved his chariot away. So smoothly, so casually, and just like how Rukmini had asked, Krishna came there like a lion, took his share amongst these assembly of jackals, and he just left the scene. So lifting the princess onto his chariot, and his chariot was wearing a flag in which Garud was there, Madhava started driving back his chariot. And Balram was leading. And it is mentioned, just specifically mentioned, that they slowly exited the scene. So when all that happened, when he had already left, then Jarasandh got to her senses, and then Jarasandh said that, oh, we are such mighty archers, and these two mere cowherd boys, these gopas, how can they steal our honor right in front of us? And what happened to her? What happened? What happened? They didn't understand only that what happened. Though they have been preparing within their mind that this may happen. But when this happened, they were all so stunned that they didn't realize what happened. And then they were like, what happened? How could it happen? How did that happen? And then they started criticizing Krishna again. And then they started telling that I am a lion and you are a lion and this is a lion and that is a lion and he was a jackal. I mean, they reversed the analogy and they are saying that he's a jackal and he came. Probably we were a little careless. Otherwise, we are lions. So they started glorifying themselves that we are lions and this is what has happened. And then they say, and then they decide that, okay, but anyway, we will chase. It is not yet over. Nothing is over. We will run behind them. So they took all their Sena and they started following Krishna's chariot. So all those who had fallen unconscious by this time, because there was so much of ho halla going out, they got up, they realized, main to gir gaya tha, okay, let me get up, let me climb up, and others were like filling him in that what has happened, and they all ran behind them. So all the elephants and the horses and everybody else, the army, those who were on the foot soldier, everybody started running. Balram, when he saw that they were all running, Krishna and Balram, when they saw that they were all running, then they stopped. And here Shishupal's army started, Shishupal's army, Shishupal's other friends who had come. See, Shishupal did not come to fight here because he was still, he was dressed up like a bridegroom and he was waiting for the bride. So he was not in a mood to fight. So he did not come, but all these Jayadratha and Shalva and all others had come with their armies, and then they start firing their arrows. And it is mentioned, so many arrows, so many countless arrows. The analogy which Bhagavatam uses to describe is, it is just like when there is a heavy rainfall on the mountain. Now we may feel that, oh, so heavy rainfall on the mountain, so many arrows, which means, but then heavy rainfall on the mountain also indicates one more thing. Rainfall on the mountain is insignificant. Nothing happens to the mountain. The only thing what happens is mountain gets washed. It gets more cleaner and better. So that is what was happening. Their arrows were completely useless. With these arrows, nothing was happening. Nobody was dying. Nothing was happening. But because this rainfall of arrow was continuously going on, Rukmini was anxious and scared. And Rukmini gives those wonderful glance to Krishna. She looks in his direction. And this is the first Rukmini Krishna Samvad, or the dialogue, where Krishna says that, "O lotus-eyed one," praising her beautiful eyes, he says, "O lotus-eyed one, do not get scared. Your army will very soon destroy their army." So now Krishna uses here a word, your army. So Krishna was actually referring to whose army? Krishna was referring to his army. But with this change of words, with this additional thing that your army, he was telling Rukmini, your army. So with this thing, he communicated so many things to Rukmini. He communicated, now you are my queen. He communicated, now you are the queen of Dwarka. He communicated, whatever is mine is yours. He communicated, everything which belongs to me, all my opulences, all my good qualities, and everything which is ever there is yours now. So Krishna not only shared his army, he shared everything with Rukmini, and with this he accepted Rukmini as his wife. So this is how Krishna accepts Rukmini as his very own, and Rukmini was very comforted and pacified. So this is how intensely, insanely romantic and adventurous this point was, when Krishna expresses the first time when they spoke, the first glance what they are exchanging, everything, it is happening in such a Kshatriya style. So this is how the whole wedding happened actually. So now what happened? So this was happening and the army was chasing. So when they realized the army was chasing, Balram gets very angry and Balram starts attacking. And when Balram starts attacking, like when they were attacking, it is described that how the rainfall was happening on mountain. When Balram starts attacking, it is described that how the heads were falling. So enemies' heads started falling down. Some people with their kundal and crown, and some people without that, and everybody was practically dying. So heads of people, heads of horses, heads of elephants, camels, donkeys, all that was coming down. Interestingly, I don't know, but donkeys was also mentioned there. So all this was happening and they were like very, very scared. and many of them died, and those who survived, they started discussing, let us just run away. So what if others would spit on us that you have ran away from the battlefield? Still, at least we will save our lives. So this was Jarasandha's plan. So Jarasandha started that, and then everybody started running. And then they ran, and then they came back to Shishupal. And Shishupal, it is described that he was still sitting in those groom's clothes. And he was waiting to get married. And he was hoping, and the kings reached, and he was very upset. And it is described, I mean, the word used there is, he was so sad as if his wife has gone. It was never his wife though, but he was so sad when he got to know that Krishna took away Rukmini. So his complexion was drained of color. The skin was very pale. His enthusiasm was gone, and his face appeared completely dried up. And this is the point. So he was extremely sad, and he was lamenting. And this is the point when Jarasandha actually starts speaking his own Gita, giving Gyan to Shishupal. So he starts telling, come on man, don't worry. Pleasant and unpleasant things keep happening. So you don't have to feel sad. You don't have to be disturbed. We are all just like puppets. He says that when we get this body, we are all like the puppets in the hands of the Supreme Lord. So sometimes things favor us, sometimes it doesn't. So though he's saying Supreme Lord, but when he's facing Supreme Lord, he is not realizing that this is a Supreme Lord. So anyways, he says, Jarasandha to pacify Shishupal, he says, take my example. I fought with Krishna and I was defeated 17 times. Every time I would go with 23 armies, and every time Krishna would defeat me. So what? I'm still living. So can you. This is the first wife which he has taken. And at least he was not married. You were not married. So anyways, Jaan hai, Jahan hai, we are saved. We can continue like that. So this is how Jarasandha starts pacifying Shishupal. And in those teachings we hear, and we can understand that how these demons were, it was not that they were less intelligent. It's just that they did not know the practical application. They did not know how to apply that knowledge. When Hiranyakashipu is in a difficult situation, he speaks his Gita. Here we are seeing Jarasandha is giving his examples. He's telling the impermanent or the non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress. But then they don't understand the essence that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. So anyway, so all this happens, and Krishna had already gone with Rukmini. And then there is a description in the 54th chapter. That description is there in detail as how nobody gets, I mean, everybody is pacified, but Rukmi is very angry. He takes a vow that I will bring my sister back, and he goes chasing behind Krishna, and Krishna disfigures him because he does not want to kill Rukmi, because he is Rukmini's brother. And so the day they have got married, he doesn't want to kill, and so he disfigures Rukmi. And because Rukmi had taken an oath that he would not come back to Vaidarbha unless he brings Vaidarbi or Rukmini, so because he could not bring, so he doesn't come back to his own city. But anyway, and then it is described that Rukmini was a little disturbed seeing his brother's condition, and Balram consoles her, and then finally they happily reach Dwarka. And when they reach Dwarka, there is again what we cannot imagine, what we cannot think, and what I cannot describe, that degree of opulent welcome and the celebrations, because Krishna had come with his chief queen, Rukmini. So with this, we conclude this session on Rukmini Krishna Kalyanotsav, and I hope and pray that the Supreme Lord Krishna and Shri Rukmini Devi, the consort Shri Rukmini Devi, they are pleased upon us with this narration and with all of us coming together and listening to this pastime. They are all pleased. And on this very, very auspicious day of Akshaya Tritiya, I pray on behalf of all of us that we also similarly attain the lotus feet of Krishna. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare
Thank you for the
Krishna.
wonderful lecture, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.